Welcome to episode 1 of Coating Convos, Penntek's first foray into podcasting. So we really just want to encourage you to listen to this on your drive into work, maybe if you can't fall asleep tonight. But our goal is to provide you a different media resource to be able to learn how to grow your business and get real-world experience from people that are doing this every day. Episode 1 is going to be with Cole Haugen. Chances are you've talked to Cole on the phone or at the very least met him as you came through certification class, but Cole's one of our technical resource managers and really has great experience in the field to be able to help you guys run your businesses more efficiently. So without further ado, Cole. Thank you so much for the awkward request of sitting and talking to me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. I'm excited for this.
Long-time listener, first-time caller?
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. So
that's fun.
There's a lot of good information to come out of these.
Yeah,
so
for sure. And I just think I think there's power in different avenues, and not everybody wants to sit and watch a long-form video or stuff like that. So this might be good.
Like you said, driving to the job site. What better time?
For sure. For sure. So part of me wants to start from the beginning, right? It's you've had a really interesting kind of background and journey. Walk us through, if nobody's ever met Cole, obviously they've probably met you at class or depot certification or something like that. But if they don't know you, how did you get here? I'm curious.
It's a long road. Been in coatings now for about 9 years. So a lot of industrial coatings, and then winded up into concrete coatings. So I love anything coatings, coating related, inspecting coatings, application of coatings, teaching coatings. That's a lot of my background, is doing some certification training for companies.
Okay, and you did oil and gas, right?
Yes,
for a long time.
Gas.
And you were traveling all the time.
Traveling on the road, living out of hotels, and always gone.
Golly.
So coming here, I'm close to home.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. So training is where I want to be. For sure.
And when you were doing oil and gas, you were inspection, right?
Yeah.
So you'd walk me through, what did you guys do?
So the crews would expose piping, and we would dig bell holes and go down, look at existing coatings that have been in the ground since the 70s, do a coating assessment of those, and then what we would do is the crew would take that coating off, sandblast, and then we would inspect the pipe. And then once that was good, we would recoat it.
Recoat.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
So I was working with the crews, we'd check coating thickness, pipe damage, and worked a lot with architects and engineers on that side of things. So it's a little different world on the concrete side.
I was just gonna say, how did you, why did you make the jump?
Yeah, so a lot of it was just, I have some friends that do concrete coatings as well, and I always thought it was super interesting. The thing that I found the biggest thing different with industrial coatings versus concrete is the environment. Concrete, you can't, it's hard to control that environment. Moisture content, humidity levels, air temp, substrate temp. Coming from oil and gas, we would be able to tarp up and get heat in there and warm up the pipe and do certain things.
Well, I'm sure all metal at a certain point is going to be roughly the same or similar. Yeah.
So it made application, there was, I would say, less delays too in the process. So that was pretty cool. And what we did there was sprayed coatings.
Okay.
So sprayed epoxies, a lot of air to soil transition tape. So a little bit different than what we do, because we squeegee and roll here. But there's a lot of similarities that come with that too, as far as your prep. Prep is number one, right? If you have a poor prep, you're gonna have a poor coating. And that aligns with what we do here as well.
I was just gonna say probably some similar carryover and obviously different type of coating, but some carryover there, which is unique. So what was the reason, what was the genesis? Did you want to get off the road or
I did,
Oh, is that what it was?
So funny story, I was 2 blocks down the road, and back then you'd get a phone call, you'd have a bag packed in your truck and it would say, hey, head to Oklahoma, and you're driving down the road, going to a job site. So it was kind of a nice change of scenery, and I actually got to install for a little bit before coming into this role here. So got time out in the field, worked my way up.
For a while, you were there for a year, right? You worked for one of our dealers for a year.
Yeah, it was a fun time, learned a lot. And the cool thing was, got to learn from some really cool people and help me, set up for success. So.
Well, I think that's where, honestly, you see some people, some trainers, if you will, and it's well, did you actually do it?
Yeah.
Obviously we're hiring another resource for tech right now, and it's well, okay, they may have some interesting, educational background, but it's like, unless you've done unless you've put in your time in the field, it's like, how's it really going to translate to teaching a class or help me?
And I think there's that certain level of respect too, because the guys that come through class, they understand that we've installed the product, so they're not just listening to someone that is, oh yeah, I know about this product.
Yeah.
We've actually used this product, installed this product, knows how it works, and they feel confident when they leave here.
Yeah.
So I think there's merit in that as well.
Well, and that's like the whole team. Like, I think it'd be really cool to I don't think we could do it, but figure out how many square feet our trainers have installed over time. Because like you, Dan, Pat, like you guys have all worked in the field for years. And so it's like, it isn't just, hey, we read the book, we get to talk to Kyle and the chemists and get, kind of the best practice stuff. It's like, no, like I've been in the field. I know what happens when it rains. I know what happens when we just flaked and suddenly a thunderstorm comes up. Like, it's nice to have people that if they pick up the phone, it's like, hey, I've been here before, and let's talk about how to move forward.
That's it too. And a lot of the stuff, in here, this is a perfect setting, right? So there's going to be stuff on job sites, and that's where, having us on the road, working with dealers on their home turf, understanding their location, there might be some different installation techniques that we would use, in different parts of the country as well. So I think there's a lot of merit in having trainers that have been out in the field, use the product, and stay refreshed on that product as well.
Well, and that's where like even the breadth of like where our dealers are in the country, it's like, okay, what Liz and her team in the Northeast are dealing with is going to be very different than what our teams in the Southwest are dealing with. Not necessarily that both environments aren't challenging, it's challenging in different ways.
There's nuances to every environment and every location. So installers need to pivot, right? And their installation techniques or best practices may change depending on time of the year, or if they're getting a weather pattern on the East Coast, or down south, maybe they haven't seen rain for a while. So there's a lot that goes with that as well.
Well, shoot, I remember this year, it was like, I was talking to AJ, and he's like, dude, I'll pay money to not have rain, because like all his dealers had an insane backlog because they couldn't get dry weather. And unfortunately, we're in an industry where like, at the end of the day, we're kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature, and
it's hard to, you need to plan ahead, because I've been on jobs too where like you're looking at the weather and you're like, man, it's going to be a beautiful day. And then you get your base coat and flakes down, go to lunch, grab a bite to eat, and you come back and you're like, I think there's rain coming.
Yeah.
So
it's like plastic off the garage
And if you're doing a patio or a walkway, hard to control that, and that's the thing that I had to learn the most when you were talking about the past of what I've done before is we could control that. We could tarp off and have a controlled environment where we weren't getting wet.
Right.
And you can't do that on a walkway or a patio outside.
Yeah.
So I think that challenge brings its own, difficulties.
For sure.
For us.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like, and kudos to you. Like I've just seen our tech training department really change over time, and what you guys are doing is just like, I truly mean it. Like obviously I'm like the sales guy, right? But like I truly feel like if we miss it at install, like the whole project obviously is messed up at that point. And so like I really do, with any new dealers that I talk to, I'm like, look, the most important department in your organization ultimately is your installers, because you got to lay down good floors. And I hear you say all the time, like, oh, zero defect floors. Like our goal at Penntek is to have a dealer network that lays down zero defect floors, which might be aspirational, but I think in theory, like if our dealers aren't waking up every day and saying, no, like every floor we lay down is going to be perfect, no matter the nuance, no matter the weather, no matter whatever it may be, and I think so much of it is leaning on you guys. If you could like wave a magic wand and change one thing for our network of 200 dealers, what would that like silver bullet, like, hey, you need to do a better job of checking moisture, like what would that be?
Yeah, I think it would just be communication throughout. Right, so you're talking zero defect floors, and that's something that we have on the whiteboard here. When the tech team walks in, that's front and center, that's our goal, right? And that can encompass a lot of different things. Yes, zero defect floor correlates a lot with a perfect install, having the right products, but it's also teamwork and communication throughout a whole. So
from the office to sales to
exactly. So a lot of the phone calls that we get, and that's where a lot of our information comes from, tech bulletins, common things we see out in the field. So we grab that information, we elevate our trainings and our materials that we provide to the dealers. But the most common thing that I get asked is, how do we fix this, right? And I think a lot of that could be eliminated if that conversation starts up front from the beginning of that project until installation, and everybody working together. So that when I think of zero defect floor, it's not just, hey, were we checking moisture? Did we do our Mohs pick test? No, is the work order, is the color right, the size of flake?
No joke.
There's been jobs, I've messed up a lot of things in this industry, and I use those examples in every class to hopefully help the next person not make that same mistake. But one of them as simple as, my work order said a certain color on there, we installed it. That customer left for work in the morning, so we couldn't verify it. They get home after work and they're like, uh-oh.
It was supposed to be Pebble Beach.
It's supposed to be Pebble Beach. So that wasn't necessarily our fault. It was kind of that lack of communication throughout, or a work order didn't get updated. But it comes down onto us because we were the installers.
Right.
So I think a lot of that, as companies grow, they're always asking, hey, how do we get to the next trailer? Well, having your quality in place, quality control, and that's for an entire organization.
There can be a QA/QC component for sales too. It's like one of my favorite things that a lot of our team preaches is, like, if a salesperson isn't working in the field, I think once a year minimum. Like,
Absolutely.
if they're not, and I'm talking load up with the crew at 7 a.m. and drive back with them at 4 or 5 p.m. at night, like, I think you lose a lot of that camaraderie within the company, because then suddenly you're siloed between sales and production, which is just, kind of the bane of everybody's existence in home improvement, is the tension between sales and production. And so it's like, hey, salespeople, know that if you cut corners on what you're doing, and you're expecting the crew to not cut corners on what they're, like, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. And I agree, those sales should go out for refreshers, go out with the crews, be on those jobs, and kind of understand the workflow, right? Maybe if they show up with the crew, they don't necessarily need to do the work, but just observe and kind of see how things are done in the order of what they're supposed to be. And I think that helps a lot too from the selling point. The more they know on the process, the better expectations they can lead to the customer. And that way, at the end of the job, when it's fully completed, expectations have been met, you have a happy customer for life.
Well, and I knew a salesman in the Penntek network that, he had a really good relationship with the crews that he worked with. And, and then what that kind of produced was, they would do little things for him. So, like, hey, I just sold a 70-year-old woman. She's got a chest freezer in the garage. To get the deal closed, I told her that the crew would move that for her. Well, if he didn't have that relationship with his crews, they'd be like, no, forget this guy. I'm not moving a freezer. But he had such a good relationship that the crews are like, yeah, we'll do whatever we can, to help him out.
That's a little goes a long ways in that case. And they may have gotten a referral from that job as well, just from the good news and the good deeds that they did and wanted to help out. I think that's amazing.
And, I just think it kind of goes back to just that mutual respect. Like, everybody's working hard. There's absolutely no one there's no one in our organization. There's no one in a lot of our dealers' organizations that's more important than another person. So it's like, hey, if we can really drive that point home that, like, okay, if the office does a really good job setting expectations, that helps the sales team. And if the sales team does a good job setting expectations, post-close, then that sets up the crew for, an easier project. And if the crew sets expectation at post-install, hey, don't drive your truck on this 3 hours after we leave, kind of thing. Like, it's just as amazing. Like, we are in a business where everyone really is reliant on each other, which is helpful, but it's also challenging.
Yeah, and it's a team effort all the way around. And I think once you can figure out that loop of, hey, this is what we need, this is the plan that we're going to move forward with, I think businesses will find ease, in the product that they're providing, and their team as well, building up and empowering the team to do good things. And maybe it leads to more work, and happier workplace.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, like, as obviously, a leader in production, like, so I'm the sales guy, right? So, like, what would you tell the sales teams that are listening to this right now? Like, how can they make their installers' lives easier?
My number one thing is accurate measurements, because we need to know how much product we're bringing to the job sites. 6 a.m. we show up to the shop, we're looking at the work order. Okay, 758 square foot, 2-car garage, this color, boom, we can grab those products. Flake color, also photographs.
Yeah.
I think you can never take too many photos. And that's from an install point of view and a sales point of view.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the work order, it's like, okay, there's the front of the home. So when I pull up at 650, I can see, okay, I'm at the right place. There's the address in the photo.
Yeah.
But I also want to see things as, hey, what's the accessibility to this space? Do I need to bring a 20-inch grinder or a 30-inch grinder?
Do I need to bring lumber to wheel it?
Is it middle of April and it's wet out and we're doing a back patio?
Yeah.
And is my Lavina going to sink in the grass? So I need, wood. So a lot of those things, and just the more photos you can grab, I think the better.
Yeah.
Also with that is you have more marketing opportunities too when that job is done. You have a lot more photos to go through and things that you could advertise on Facebook, Instagram, things like that for the company.
Yeah. No, and that's where it's like, I was talking to Jimmy Keys like last week, and he was talking about, he came up against a competitor. You talked about mismeasuring. That was like a closing tactic of one of his competitors. They mismeasured the garage because it's like, oh great, I can get him a cheaper price if I just say that the garage is 80 square feet less than it actually is. And then that just screws over the crew that's got to go out and be like, well, it looks like we're coating a bigger floor than we anticipated. Like,
I've even been there. Like, I've ran out of products because of miscalculation on the square footage, right? The other thing is too, verticals. Is there verticals on that? Are we stopping the coating? So good photos. And a lot of companies nowadays use company cam, and they can draw and annotate within company cam. So the sales personnel can go out there, take a photo. Hey, we're coating up to this. We're going to do this vertical, but hey, we're stopping back here. So they can, and then also the condition of the concrete, they're taking their moisture read. So if there was a high moisture read at the point of sale, great, I can look at that, see where it was. And then when I go out there to install it, I'm going to test that same area to just make sure that we're providing the best system for the customer.
Well, and with company cam, it's like company cam's only as good as the photos that they put in there. Like so many, and no offense salespeople, like so many times it's the salespeople that they took a really great photo from 6 feet back from the garage where you can't, and it's like, that doesn't really do any good for the installers. It's like, hey, let's be detailed. And I don't think I know of an owner on the planet that's like, oh, hey, sales team, you're taking too many photos in company cam. Like we saw way too much of the project prior to the crews coming out. I think that's a really easy change.
I know, and I'm going to shout out Omega for this, because they do a really great job on their company cam and photos, and the salespeople are aligned, the installers are aligned, and that way they can go through and make sure they have everything that they do. Another interesting thing that I heard from a dealer, we were doing a class one time and talking about photos. They said at their office, they have an internal QA/QC. So the jobs that were sold that day, they have somebody dedicated at the office, somebody maybe answering the phones. They go through the jobs that were sold that day to make sure that they have all of the photos that they need and information, square footage, hey, color,
I like that.
Photos for the installer. So that way when the installers go out to that job, they know that that installer has everything that they need.
Yeah.
And you're setting the installers up for success. So it goes back to teamwork.
Yeah, no joke.
Collaborating from the top all the way, management to sales to the installers. Yeah. And it's that full circle.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, in real time.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if like a salesperson hasn't left the home yet and they're like, hey, I need photos of this. Like, where's my access? Like that. I think that's really smart.
We did a production summit. I think you remember that a little while back. And one of the things that we used photos for too was just like you said, real time. So if they're out on a job site, they can pull up that photo and check on the guys. Hey, okay, they're getting done with prep. We're on schedule. So they can use that kind of internally as well for the company, not just final photos, but during that project or during that sale.
So moving kind of along, like, as the crews are getting ready to set up, like, I'm always like kind of a product geek. So like, is there any like material, or is there any like equipment that you would be like, hey man, if every crew has this specific product or tool, it would make their life infinitely easier? Like I always just wonder, like, is there tangible things that our dealers can be like, hey, I'm going to run to Depot and pick this up and it's going to make my crew's life easier? Is there anything like that?
So I know starting off, Tramex moisture meter and Mohs pick test should be on every trailer.
For sure.
V-blades, Home Depot has them. V-blades are a necessity. We call that the Swiss Army knife. So that's an easy tool to get around sharp corners, bull noses, garage rails. And then cardboard mixing, right? Keeping a clean space. Having, we used, one thing that I really enjoy is we have a 7-gallon bucket. So we clean off mixers. So instead of sticking a mixer in an open bucket, whether it be acetone or cleaner, you have a 7-gallon bucket where your mixer fits right in and keeps our mixers clean.
Oh, that's good.
That was one of the things that I truly enjoyed. And anything that can help keep your workspace clean, I think is great. I don't have any, specialty tools that I'm like, we should go get this if we don't, But Mohs pick test, Tramex, and anything that can make your life easier on that job, whether it be plastic. If you're walking into a home, going into a basement, you better have carpet plastic.
That's good.
So we always kept that. We always kept visqueen plastic. So if it was raining, we could tarp off the garage. So just little things like that. Clamps. So if we had to clamp to the garage.
Oh, that's smart.
And then we always kept lumber. And the lumber wasn't just for the Lavina going to the backyard. Sometimes our trailer, if your driveway had an weird angle and you'd back in your trailer, it would get very close and scrape the driveway. So we always made sure we had wood down there to make sure it wasn't gouging.
I was with Top Coat maybe last summer, I think, and they had those sticky like floor mats, which I thought we were doing in project in like a lab. And every one of the guys, before they would walk in, they would step on these sticky mats, clean their shoes off before they step. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, I've never seen anybody do that.
Where that would be most helpful too? On a solid color floor.
Oh, no joke.
No contamination if you can keep your shoes clean. Some guys, I've heard of using that for delinting rollers.
Oh,
so if they're doing, solid color floor, something that's going to show more of those imperfections, keeping clean.
No,
and I think that's a big part of it too, because that's the first thing customers look at. They don't care if an installer is dirty, right? But as soon as you open that door, open that van or trailer, they see your equipment is clean, your work site is organized, you're putting out, preventative measures to help keep their floor clean. They're going to say, hey, you actually do care about your install, and they're going to love that.
It's like the little things. It's like, man, if we could just do like the 25 little things that really don't slow us down, doesn't change productivity, but it like, to your point, gives the customer a lot of like confidence in the company that they chose. Like if you're going to be a Penntek dealer, you're going to be kind of the premium offering. We work with the best in the industry, and it's like all the little things are kind of what build that, that value. And your salesperson has sold that. They've sold that they're the best. And so if the crews aren't the best as well, that ball kind of gets dropped. We're obviously like we've brought on just a bunch of new clients and new customers, and it's just been so much fun to meet the new dealers coming through. I think there's probably a subset of people that are listening and are wondering like, all right, cool, I'm a newer installer, right? Maybe I've worked for a different company, maybe I've installed epoxies or different coatings like that. If there is like, hey, this is, like Cole's top 2 pieces of advice for like a new installer on how to be like really proficient, really good at what they do, what would you say is like some easy, kind of 1-2 things that every new installer should remember before they really dive headfirst into this?
One, they need to make sure that they have proper prep on. And that goes for anything in life, right? But prep and hard work, right? Putting in the work, wanting to learn more, right? Because I think I started off green, everyone did, and finding that mentor to help train you and learn every aspect and understand the why behind it. So I think if you can have a willingness to learn, I don't have maybe 1 or 2, but I think the willingness to learn, ask questions, and understand why, and help ensure that you can lay down the best floor that you can.
Right. Well, and that's where I think so many of our dealers do a really good job of like, hey, they may start as an installer on day one. Some of the best salespeople that I know in the Penntek network they were installers long before they started selling. And it's like, that's a superpower. If there's an installer that has a desire to like, hey, I want to laterally move in this company and move into sales, like, but none of that is possible without being like, hey, wherever I'm planted right now, like I'm going to do the best work that I possibly can in this particular, kind of team or role within the company. And then it just kind of opens up from there.
Yeah, it's building blocks.
Yeah, no joke.
So you got to start somewhere, and you got to know where you want to go and where you want to be as well. But I think hard work and willingness to learn plays a huge part in that.
For sure. So you've been doing this for a long time. You've probably seen products change a lot.
Yes.
Like if there's like one, I keep saying like, oh, what are the one or two things? But like, what are some things that you've seen over time from the product side that you think has been a huge impact, to help, ease the installation process, make sure that floors stick long term? Obviously, we've got a lifetime warranty, so that's important. What are some of the things that you've seen that excite you?
Well, I love that we offer product speeds. So having a speed that you can match up for the environment that you're coating in. Hearing all these stories, from Pat back in the day and even Kyle, they just had one speed back then, and it was fast.
Yeah, can you imagine?
So I think allowing the installers to be able to mix and match for the environment that they're coating in, help them on the job, right? They can pick a slower speed to get more work time. So I think that is...
newer installers, why not give yourself a little bit of margin?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then obviously we've had some new products come out as well. Mender itself, absolutely love that. And then our top coat, right? We have different top coats to choose from. More of a low odor for interior spaces, and then normal polyaspartic for exterior, garage spaces, things like that.
I love it. And I think that's one thing that we've always kind of hung our hat on is like, truly Kyle Bain's heart is with the installation team.
Yes.
Like as much as I try to drag him into sales and stuff like that, like Kyle cares most about the installers and making sure that, if there's a product that he's going to develop or the chemistry team is going to develop, it's there to solve an issue, most likely solve an issue for the installation team. Sorry, salespeople out there, but by and large, Kyle's trying to formulate product for them. And like, that's where it's like, just since I've been here 6 years, and it's like, it's been so cool to see like, moisture tolerant base coat. Our moisture mitigation system has changed a whole bunch, and only for the better. I mean, I think that's like one of those things where it's like we're constantly innovating product, not because the old product wasn't working, but because we have a team in the lab that's like, shoot, why wouldn't we make this better? And why wouldn't we make a product that's going to stick and be easier to work with and all of that stuff? So yeah, I just think that's something that's always exciting for me, is to hear what they're cooking up.
And I think it's cool too when you get that feedback from a dealer. And it's like, hey, we could use this product, or this product, and then that product comes to fruition, I think that's super cool. The other thing with new products though is best practices that go with them. So I've seen some best practices that have changed too as products come out. So I think continued training, continued education, and asking those questions, right?
Notch squeegees.
I
just saw a long-term dealer ribbon rolling, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Your life would be easier if you used notch squeegees. You're not rolling out peanut butter in a line,
And I was one of those that started without the notch squeegee. So I've been there and I've messed that up, and I've made my mistakes, and that notch squeegee makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. It's way easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you help ensure that you're putting down the appropriate
and it's faster.
Yes.
That's the beauty. Like, I still remember my first trip with Pat when we were really like, hey, this is the way to go for base coat. And it's like, oh my goodness, like this makes coverage rate of base coat far easier. Like, I just think it's super cool. So, all right. So we've talked about how to make, installation teams' lives easier. Cole, how can we make your life easier?
I think we stay pretty busy doing everything. I have it pretty good, I will say. But calling the tech line up front, getting the sales guys to call the tech line. If there's anything that we can help with, rather do it on the front end and help ensure that we have a successful completion through the end of the job, rather than calling when something goes wrong and, hey, how do we fix that?
Yeah.
So if I can encourage everybody to use the tech line, call us, text us. You know, you can send photos.
FaceTime, yeah.
FaceTime, yeah, we're on FaceTime with the dealers that come through. We have guys who just call to say, hey, anything new going on, right? Just a chit chat. And if you don't want to talk on the phone, we're there via text.
Well, and I even like, I've heard of so many salespeople that are like, hey, they're meeting with a homeowner, and you know, what a competitive advantage for them to be like, hey, by the way, I'm going to get on with our manufacturer, not my tech team. No, I'm going to call the manufacturer, and they're with the customer on the phone with you guys going, hey, here's what I'm running into. I want to make sure that Mrs. Jones' floor is going to last a long time. You know, what would you recommend? An instant, you want to talk about like credibility for the salesperson, like, oh, hey, the customer gets to hear them on the phone with the manufacturer, finding out if the product is the right fit. Like, that's huge. And, you know, for salespeople to not be afraid, like, you're not just here for installers, you're here for the organization.
And I think that's huge too. And also we can look at it as the avenue of, like, let's say a dealer has X amount of jobs coming up, and maybe they're larger jobs and they've been doing smaller square footage. We've even hopped on Zoom calls with them, and they'll put up the photos of their project, and we go over with them how we would attack that job. You know, so setting them up before they get out there.
Right.
And then running product calculations. Right, so making sure they have the right products and the right tools to ensure that there's no hiccups along the way.
I love that.
So if I could say the one thing, it's call us soon, you know, before the project, and we can go over anything that they may need.
Well, and that's where it's just like your team and the tech team, you know, you guys are always so willing to chat with everybody. And I almost think that as busy as you guys are, and I get to see how often you guys are on the phone, it's still an underutilized resource. It's like, every dealer should be chatting with you guys on a very regular basis. It's part of what you get by being a Penntek dealer. You get Cole, you get Dan, like you get Pat, you know, and I just think it's a good opportunity. So honestly, Cole, thank you so much. I know this is kind of a, you know, our first foray into the podcast format, but at the very least, obviously want to start with tech, because I think it's the building block of how we run effective businesses. And honestly, you guys, like, thank you so much for listening. I hope, you know, maybe you picked up one or two things, whether you're sales, marketing, or in the field. We want this to be beneficial to you guys. So once again, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you guys for being great partners of Penntek. And as always, please feel free to throw a comment in there if there's a topic or somebody that you think we should talk to, and there will be more to come. So thank you so much.
We'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, Cole.
Thank you.